It's a great Friday, and it's in that spirit we welcome you to the last weekday edition of Global Morning here on Global Television. I'm Uyag Mofegwe, and what will fill me to tell you how excited we feel coming your way again today. Jumai Manson looks colorful, bringing so much of compliments, sparkle, and dazzle to the program. I mean, you have never been this intentional.
I try. It's something you take very seriously. You don't joke with such. It's very important.
You put in the work.
Yeah, I do. And they say it's all about branding, right? So you have to put in the work to represent yourself, who you are. Very important to always show.
Meet brand ambassador Jumai Manson.
Always giving me different appointments. It's fine.
No, your portfolio needs to be loaded.
It has to be. It has no choice. Good morning, Rui. How are you doing today?
I'm doing very well.
And to each and every one of you out there, it's great to be here on the show. Good morning. And it's Friday. They say it's TGIF, right? So thank God it's Friday.
It is.
Time to...
We can talk about celebration later, maybe?
Yeah, exactly. Let's talk politics now.
First, right. But again, politics, yes, of course. Yesterday, talking of politics, President Bola Tinubu engaged with Imo State Governor, who we understand is the renewed hope ambassador for this government.
Yes, he is.
Man, we also understand he's very close to the president politically and in terms of personal relationship and all of that.
That's Governor Hope
Uzodinma of Imo State, right? But the president also used that opportunity where you had the likes of the vice president, national chairman of the APC, and a couple of other governors present to remind Nigerians that, reassure Nigerians that this government is working to ensure stability and prosperity in the economy. The president says, look, one of the things we're doing in this government is to ensure that we, as it were, pull down old structures, economic and political, rebuild, that sort of thing. And they say it's far harder to rebuild than to destroy.
Very true.
But again, every time the president says that, it reminds Nigerians of at least two things. One, the work that has been cut out for him, and the promises that he has made over time to Nigerians. And we hope he finds the enablement, whatever that means, to be able to deliver on those fronts. But there's also a story coming out this morning that's quite disturbing of how that Nigeria has been rated or ranked as one of the 20 countries in the world where there's so much of complaints around cyber crime, right? And when you look at that, especially if you are not a Nigerian, or even if you are Nigerian, you realize that there's just digs a pit in your tummy, sort of, because imagine if I was not a Nigerian and I read something like that, and maybe my intention was to come here, maybe invest, maybe settle, maybe even marry from here, for example. It has a way of making me rethink that direction, or that sort of thing. And you're wondering, how did we get to this point? I remember one time, former DG of the Nigerian Television Authority, Professor Anthony Radia, was in England, and they were having this debate about Nigeria being a cybercrime country, and he did say something. He said, look, when you say Nigerians are cyber criminals, you're just talking about a handful, like a bunch of people who just decide to make the wrong choice. It doesn't reflect who we are as a people.
Very true.
And then he moved on from it to also say that even these few Nigerians, as scanty as they are in their own enclave, will not be successful in this enterprise if they didn't have collaborators from Germany, from the United Kingdom, from the US, from Canada, Australia, and everywhere else, including Germany, for example, across the world. So it now makes you realize that we are also not, for what we see now, as a country, as a people, as a government, pushing the Nigerian brand hard enough. Maybe that's one of the reasons we are where we are, because there's something called Corruption Perception Index, which means that Jumai Manson may not be a Nigerian. Maybe she's a Chinese woman somewhere in Guangdong in China. All right, she has never been in Africa, so she has no idea what it feels like to touch down in Nigeria. But then she's hearing things about Nigeria in a certain direction. It will shape how she sees Nigeria, how she thinks about Nigeria.
Of course.
Therefore, what is the role of government? What is the role of Nigerians, whether they are home or those who move abroad? It is to ensure that we continue to build and strengthen that brand. And on the final note, it makes me remember the likes of late Professor Dora Akuyeli, who was pushing that brand so hard. Right, Nigeria. That was the first time, at least to the best of my knowledge as a Nigerian, that a government, all right, would push branding, that much. And she was hard on it. She was consistent.
Oh yes, she was. Oh yes, she was. It shaped a lot of lives. A lot of individuals began to see themselves outside those negativity that was circled around us as Nigerians and of course Nigeria. It took a toll. Like, it's very hard that you see foreign investors who want to partner with you. For instance, you're applying for an international job, for instance, and that mindset comes in. Oh, they are dubious.
Right. They can't be trusted.
They cannot be trusted. It takes someone who is well educated to understand that you cannot classify, a whole nation or a country because of one individual or two scanty individuals that were mentioned. And that is why rebranding is very important. I think we need to go back to that drawing book of rebranding and portraying us as Nigerians, because Nigerians are so intelligent.
Right.
My family members who are abroad will tell you, in decision making in companies abroad, you must see a Nigerian there, one or two, and they were so intelligent. But it's just unfortunate that this issue of cybercrime has really taken a toll on us. Like, when you talk about cyber criminality, Nigerians are on. I wouldn't that particular report or the status. It's not incorrect. It's true, but at the same time, you cannot just classify each and every one of us as cybercrime individuals, or we're fraudulent, or we're not straightforward, or it really takes a toll on an individual, and it's just unfortunate that. But we really need to go back to that rebranding. When it came up at first, everyone was like, rebranding, what are you talking about? Rebranding. Everybody didn't take it seriously. But
Nigeria, good people, great nation.
That was the slogan. I remember. And that's the truth. Nigerians are good people. Nigeria is a great nation. It's just unfortunate that we're trying to get our feet. We're just trying to just find a balance. I know with time we will. And that is why rebranding starts with you and I, Uyi. Not see Nigeria for the negativity that people just wake up and just say things about Nigeria, forgetting that you live here. Are you kidding me? How would you say nothing works in this country? Those words are so powerful.
Yet you're in the country.
Your
loved ones are in the country.
Not only that, your source of livelihood are in the country. Are you getting any other monies from anywhere else? It's here in Nigeria. Your business are all circled here. Your job circled here. Your kids are here. And yet you wake up and you say such negativity. I think we have to start with that. By saying so, I know everyone will say, yes, everyone is feeling the brunt of what is going on. But the truth is, no one is actually folding their hands. Everyone is trying. It might not be at the speed at which we want. But if you look at it, some individuals in this country have really benefited from the Renewed Hope agenda. It might not have reached everyone else. That means they really have a lot of work to do when it comes to cutting borders, when it comes to Renewed Hope agenda. So everybody will understand what it really means to feel that impact. But at the same time, words are really powerful. I say, if you wake up and say nothing works in this country,
it goes in that direction.
What are you saying? It will not work. Starting with the person that starts saying it. And if you look at when you keep saying nothing works, nothing will actually never work. But when you keep saying it's hard, but hey, come on. We have to start with that. Rebranding with our words, and then our character comes into play. It's very important, really.
Well,
were you speechless?
I was on second.
I can't believe it.
Well, let's just say after the scripts. Well, it's a Good Friday, and Juma and I will be very engaging as always on the program today. But let's take a quick break now. When we return, we will be cooking.
Hello everyone, and welcome to Taste and Texture. This is Saadatu Garba, your creative chef. In today's episode of the program, we'll be making chips.
All right, thank you for staying with us, everyone. It's a Friday, and unless, of course, you're on a fast or diet of some kind.
But that was a teaser.
It was just to give you an insight into what's to come.
What's to come, very important.
Are we cooking today, of course?
Of course. Up next is Taste and Texture, where we get to have something delicious for breakfast. And if you're out there wondering what it is, I will not let the cat out of the bag. You have to sit back, relax, and see what that deliciousness is all about. Stay tuned. Taste and Texture.
Hello everyone, and welcome to Taste and Texture. This is Saadatu Garba, your creative chef. In today's episode of the program, we'll be making chips in egg. Chips and egg is the ultimate breakfast consumed in Nigerian homes. The delicious richness of the potatoes pairs nicely with the egg and other ingredients that you'd love to make this over and over again. Ingredients: potatoes, 4 eggs, chopped onions, chopped scotch bonnet, green and red bell peppers, seasoning cubes, salt, vegetable oil, and water. Step 1. Peel the potatoes and cut into long strips. Add your potatoes into a bowl and sprinkle some salt. Add some oil to a pan, then fry your potatoes till crispy. Step 2. For the eggs, break your eggs into a bowl. Sprinkle some salt and beat the eggs. In a pan, add some oil and onions and fry for a bit. Add your bell peppers, scotch bonnets, and stir, then add your seasoning powder. Add the beaten eggs into a pan and mix the eggs and vegetables together. Arrange your chips into the pan and cover to cook for a minute. Flip the egg and chips to the other side to cook as well. There you have it, your chips in egg is ready to enjoy. That's a wrap on today's episode of Taste and Texture. I hope you enjoyed this culinary demonstration and trust you will try this recipe at home. Be sure to join me again for yet another taste-friendly delicacy. I am Saadatu Garba, your creative chef, saying thank you for watching.
All right, you're welcome back. And of course, that segment was Taste and Texture. Hopefully, you'll be trying it out when it comes to chips, pizza, with our Nigerian pizza, when it comes to eggs.
Nigerian pizza.
Pizza.
Yeah, the Nigerian part for me, really, because, when you say pizza, basically it's an Oyibo thing.
Yeah.
But that we can have a variant of it makes it quite interesting.
We don't have to use pepperonis, cheese, and all of that. We can just have our natural deliciousness with a little bit of pepper, onions, our condiments, and of course Irish potatoes and eggs, and just make something different from the ordinary chips and eggs, something creative and something really nice.
That's amazing. Well, we hope you try this out on your own as well. Hopefully. And have a feel of what it's like to do this for breakfast. But there are concerns again around insecurity. We understand there had been a memo that was shared basically by the Nigeria Customs, of course, shared with the Nigerian Immigration Service, alerting agencies, security agencies, that is, to possible strikes by terrorists around airports, Kuje prison, one other prison somewhere in Niger State, and things like that. You see, when intel like this becomes public, or at least once it's shared amongst critical security outfits, we would expect that, to the best of our ability and available resources, we're able to curtail or at least quickly tackle, put in place, things like that. Because it already shows that there's some work in place for this sort of early detection to have happened at all. But you see, it's also a very sad and extremely worrying reminder that these criminal elements will stop at nothing, all right, to continue to, foment trouble, for want of better words, because this is the Federal Capital Territory we're talking about. And by the way, the memo reportedly also mentions how that these criminal cells already have themselves dispersed across the city. In other words, they've already infiltrated the city. At least they're on the fringes, and they mix it up, all in the bid to carry out all of these dastardly intentions. But you see, we must now rise above this somehow. And I think, from what we are hearing, President Bola Tinubu, more than ever before, is now beginning to realize that the issue of insecurity in Nigeria is beyond the headlines on the front pages of papers. It's beyond the numbers. They are deep-rooted factors that must be tackled. Otherwise, we're just going to keep condemning all of these attacks.
Yes, and that is very true. You have said, and it's beyond the service chiefs moving to the borders of these individuals. It's beyond that. I think we need a very swift intervention when it comes to insecurity. And it's insecurity, the issues of insecurity is top notch when it comes on that list, because once we actually curb this menace of insecurity, every other thing I keep saying it, and that is, I'm sure a lot of individuals will agree with me. Because once a nation is secured, every other thing goes smoothly when it comes to education. You won't be scared about transportation and all of that, because once you curb insecurity, farmers can go back to their farms. They will farm food and it won't be at a high cost and all of that. So it takes a toll, and it's beyond the headlines, beyond all of that. It really takes a toll on the nation, and I think with this intel that is out, precautionary measures, all hands must be on deck in order for this act not to see the light of day. It's very important we understand that. Hopefully, let's just assume it's just allegations and all of that, but hopefully the needful is done when it comes to putting all hands on deck and putting precautionary measures into place. Very important.
It is very important. But then there's this other side story also coming out from Benue State about a commercial bus that had been abducted, and of course, passengers kidnapped and led into the bush. Incidentally, a handful of them we hear are candidates of the UTME.
Exactly.
All right, and that exam is around the corner, and now we know the drill with these criminals. The next thing we know is they start demanding ransom. And until such ransoms are paid or some certain conditions are met, there is no releasing this person.
And it's just unfortunate that
these are people with promise, young people with energy, young people who honestly are the future leaders.
Yes,
now they are somewhere in the bush where nobody has an idea what's happening with them.
And it's just unfortunate, and you don't want to imagine the state in which they are living at this point, the trauma in which is going on in their heads. You see, that's where we are now in Nigeria, that individuals can just come out, these terrorists do not have any form of empathy whatsoever. They don't care, excuse me, they do not care whether these individuals are even struggling to go and write their exams or what their parents are going through to see them through school and all of that. And of course, the demand for ransom, I'm sure it's going to be a lot. And God forbid they cannot pay, and God forbid we know what happens. But we just pray that the needful is done and the authorities, they are swift in getting those kids out of that bush as soon as possible.
Yeah, I think that's the emphasis, as soon as possible. Beyond the fact that they have exams to write, their well-being and, of course, their state of mind. But again, it is our desire and prayer that this whole gory story will be a thing of the past for us as a nation and as a people. Now time to join Ramsey Enoch Agbo as we bring you Heart to Heart Inspirational.
Hello, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, depending on where you are watching from, where you are listening from right now. My name is Ramsey. Let's talk a little bit. You know, a lot of people think the way they want to think because everyone is entitled to their decision. Everyone is entitled to how they think. But then you have the right to think in a particular way. But then there is something I want us to consider today, inspiring ourselves, encouraging ourselves. What we are trying to achieve here is to set someone on track, give someone hope, restore someone's belief and faith in himself, in herself. What are we saying? There are things that you don't need to procrastinate about, that you need to start now. From where you are, using what you have, doing what you can, because nobody, all right, would want to have it all before they get started. If you're waiting for when you have it all before you get started, then it is a problem. So now, I want to ask a question. Let me ask you a question. How many dreams have died because someone was waiting for the perfect moment? How many dreams do you think have died? Even you who is listening, who is watching right now, how many of your dreams, how many of your plans have died because you were waiting for the perfect moment? Some will say, I will start when I have the money. Some will say, I will begin when I have the right equipment. Some said, I will take the first step when everything is in place. But when is going to be the time that everything will be in place? These are the questions we should be asking ourselves. But let me tell you something. The truth is this: there will never be a perfect time. The perfect time is now. All right? Arthur Ashe, the legendary tennis champion, once said, start where you are, use what you have, do what you can. He didn't have the fanciest equipment. He didn't train in the best facility, but he had willpower and courage to start whatever he had. You see, greatness doesn't just wait for the perfect time. It doesn't care about perfection. It grows through progress. Every successful person you admire today started small. The difference between them and others isn't the talent, all right? It's the action. the move. Don't despise your humble beginning. Don't mind what people are saying, because people will say so many things about you. Whatever. Someone said his name is whatever. Whatever you do, whatever you say, people must talk about it, whether positive or negative. If you're doing well, people will still criticize you, because some persons will say, oh, because of his affluence, he's behaving like this. If you don't have, some people would still say, where is he looking at? Can't he see his mates? Can't he see what his colleagues are doing? The small things that you are doing in a big way one day will generate you income that you don't even expect. The bottom line is this. You need to tell yourself and say, enough is enough. I've tarried too long in this place, in this position, all right, in this thinking. You know, it's a process. It's a process. Success is a process. First of all, you need to conceive it in your heart. Then secondly, it needs to get into your head. Have it in your head, or else it will never get into your hand. Number one, it needs to be in your heart, in your head, and in your hand. I call it the triple H. The triple H principle says it must get conceived in your heart first. Keep ringing in your head, then it will enter your hand one day. But a lot needs to be doing. It's a process, just like the seed. The seed doesn't grow in just one day. It went through a lot of processes. The gold you see today don't just come out shiny, but then it went through a refining process, a heating process with fire, serious fire. The gold is being heated in serious fire before it's become what it is today. So whatever you're doing, that dream that you have, begin to do something about it. Begin to mix up with people who are going your direction, people who have your kind of dream achieved already, because that thing you're thinking, somebody already has gone ahead to do it. So you don't need to just sit down and be thinking, be procrastinating. The economy is not favorable. Nigeria, this is the country. If I was abroad, well, let me tell you the truth. It's not all about your location. It's not all about your destination. Even though these factors play particular roles in your success, in your growth, in your achievement, but you don't need to capitalize on it. All right, and hold yourself back, because by the time you're holding yourself back, someone somewhere is already overtaking you, because the person believed in his or her dream and decided to make a move, despite the fact that they are not seeing the staircase, but they believe that their leg will land somewhere. All right. Risk taking is very important, but then if you want to take risk, let it be a calculated risk. Not the risk that will destroy you or claim your life. Any risk you're taking, it should be a calculated risk. If I do this, this is what is going to happen. If I do it this way, this is what is going to happen. But at the end of the day, this is where I am going to land, good or bad. That's how to take risk. You don't just take risk randomly and say, well, whatever wants to happen should happen. You should know that this thing that I want to do is two ways. It's either it happens this way or it happens the other way. But those two ways should be something that you should be able to survive, not that kind of risk that will end you in jail. Then that dream is already dead on arrival. That vision is dead on arrival. So if you want to take risk in as much as risk taking is part of the game, you need to be calculative. You need to put your sense together. All right. And you just need to know that every expert was once a beginner. Everyone started from somewhere, and they are where they are today. It's so beautiful talking with you. It's so nice talking with you in this aspect. A lot of people tell themselves, this is what I want to do. They start and they stop halfway. Some persons start and one thing comes up and they abandon that and rush on the other thing. But the bottom line is this: whatever you want to do, whatever it is you're doing, you should believe in yourself that you are a great man, you are a great woman. But then you need to put God at the center of everything that you do, whatever it is. Allah, okay, is supposed to be in charge. And everything you want to do, don't succeed at the detriment of the other person, because nemesis will not allow that success see the light of day. You might be successful today, but how long is that success going to be sustained? Will you be able to sustain it because you did it on a very faulty foundation? A house built on a faulty foundation never lasts. We heard of building collapse at different times. How did it end? Because the foundation was faulty. So your success in life, your achievement in life should be on a very solid foundation without you stepping on toes. It's not necessary, okay? Because the plan that God has for you is of good. So do your best and try everything that you can and get started now. Get started now. January, February, March, April, May, June, July, August, September, December, you should be able to sit down and say, yes, this is what I have done. This is what I have achieved. All right. It might not be 100%, but at least 75, 80, 85, 90 is still a very good one. Thank you very much. Have a beautiful time. I want to see you at the other side of success so that we can celebrate together, because the world is waiting for you to manifest your success.
Wake up with Global Morning, your daily guide to what's happening and making the rounds.
We delve into headlines, newspaper reviews, spot-on analysis, policies, current events, real talk, real issues that affect us all.
From the latest trends to the debates, every topic, every angle, Global Morning is where it all starts.
Global Morning,
For the latest issues,
always on point.
Watch Global Morning Monday to Friday at 7 a.m., Saturday and Sunday at 8 a.m. on Global Television.
All right, you're welcome back. And if you're just tuning in, this is Global Morning. And of course, hope you enjoyed that inspirational Heart to Heart with Ramsey Enoch Agbo. At about this time is the newspaper review segment. And we're going to start with the first paper, the Razor News. And above the nameplate, it says here, Delta CP orders trial of officers over viral extortion video. And of course, next it says police inspect security at JAM centers in FCT. Next to it, it says AIG GMO meets Lagos Ogun CPs, reiterates IGP's directives on security. And below all of that, below the nameplate, the star story on the Razor News says, police extradite murder drug trafficking suspect to UK, that's United Kingdom. And here it says, police reforms, UNDP backs implementation of Nigerian police regulations 2026. And below that it says, Easy Youth Day to hold May 30th in Abuja. And then below that it says custom intensifies crackdown as foul zone seizures exceed 6 billion naira. And basically that's all on the Razor News newspaper. Go out and get yourself a copy and be well abreast with issues making rounds. Next we have the Daily Trust. Over to you, Lee.
Well, thank you so much, Jumai. Now the Daily Trust newspaper, three just beneath the nameplate, top right first. Nasarawa governorship disquiets over Wadada's endorsement. And then next to that it says, court orders ex-humanitarian minister's arrests over alleged fraud. Of course, the same thing goes for permanent secretary as well. Okay, what's more do we have? I'm not scared of 2027. That's President Bola Tinubu there speaking. The big one says UTME candidates abducted as exam commences. Juman, I talked about that very briefly a while ago. And then the left corner of the paper, keep debt manageable, IMF tells Nigeria. That's some very strong warning. Federal government rehabilitates foreign Nigerian ex-insurgents. South Africa's opposition leader, Malema, may lose seats over conviction. But his lawyer says he has now appealed because he won't allow himself to be dragged to prison. Heat wave forces Kano residents to sleep outdoors. Chuma, you're not grateful for how that the climate around here is not so bad. I mean, you still sleep in your room. But now we're hearing that heat wave has forced many residents in Kano to sleep outdoors.
Very unfortunate. But we're still grateful.
Right.
Grateful and thankful that at least we can sleep indoors. And, we're thankful.
Right. Well, those are your headlines from today's issue of the Daily Trust newspaper. Our next port of call, as you read up details now, is the New Telegraph.
All right, now the New Telegraph newspaper, and it says here above the nameplate, it says, Edu, Nigeria has no immediate plan to approach IMF. And below that, before we get to the nameplate, it says Nigeria deepens push for continental financial integration. And if you're wondering where that story is all about, it's on page 7 on the New Telegraph. Now, below the nameplate, it says here, Akpabio urges global parliaments to defend peace, justice. And that read is on 27 and 28 on the New Telegraph. Next, on page 3, it says, alleged $1.3 million fraud. Court orders arrest of ex-humanitarian minister Farouk. And on page 2, it says here, Middle East crisis, Israel, Lebanon have agreed to a 10-day ceasefire. And that's from the President of the United States, Donald Trump. And the star story on the New Telegraph says, 2027, they want to scare me. I won't give up. And that's from our dear President, President Bola Ahmed Tinubu. And the writer there reads, says, I took over from myself, the late Buhari is with me. I'll take that again. It says, I took over from myself, the late Buhari is with me. And if you're wondering what that is all about, you have to flip over to page 2 of the New Telegraph to be well abreast there. And then still on the New Telegraph, it says, aviation fuel, major oil marketers counter airline operators, 3,300 naira per liter claim. And it says, urge them to seek alternative suppliers, say cheaper options available. And that's on page 2 and page 3. Now, below that on page 2 and 3 again, it says 1.12 trillion naira anchor borrowers fund. Reps probe, NAIC, leadway others. And it says approved 248.6 billion naira relief debt restructuring for discos. And it is below that. Some very disturbing news now. We spoke about it this morning. Gunmen adopt UTME candidates, others in Benue bus attack. And it says driver, 2 others escape. 2.2 million candidates sit for 2026 UTME nationwide, and that read is on page 3 and 4. And it says here security alert, and it's on page 27 and 29. It says terrorists plan to hit Abuja airport or the critical infrastructure, and that's from customs. And it says 744 repentant terrorists graduate on the federal government's de-radicalization policy. Okay. And below that it says fatty diets trigger rapid immune damage in the gut. And that's from study, and it's on page 29. And go out and get yourself a copy of the New Telegraph and be well informed with all the major headlines making rounds. Next, we have The Guardian.
Let's begin with the three beneath the nameplate. Again, top right headline first. It says, Reps expand probe into 1.12 trillion naira anchor borrowers funds, summon firms. That's the rice-focused agricultural initiative midwifed by the Central Bank of Nigeria, which has now become a subject of investigation, in some cases litigation. Police customs uncover terrorist plots in Abuja, Niger, Ondo. Page 3 is where you can read up details for yourself. Jets A1 crisis, fuel marketers dispute airlines 3,300 naira per litre claim. That headline has a picture of the Minister of Aviation and Aerospace Development, Festus Kayamo. Correctional Center, how systemic collapse, corruption worsen inmates' plight behind bars. Big story, pages 4 and 5 is where you can read up details. And then, as is always the case, the Guardian newspaper has very beautifully laid out infographics for you right here on the front page. So it's quite a big story. Gunmen abduct Benue UTME candidates amid disputes over technical glitches. Tinubu dares opposition, vows to stay on course as zoning debate deepens. Tinubu backs direct primaries, denies imposition of candidates. Osun poll CSOs, that's civil society organizations, petition Amukbito over redeployment as INEC adjusts timeline. NPDC warns organizations as hackers target financial digital systems. Reps OK 248.6 billion naira relief, 10-year debt restructuring for Kano, Jos, Ikeja distribution companies. Those are your headlines today from the Guardian newspaper. Please be sure, as always, to read up details for yourself. Next is the let's see what we have. Leadership Friday. Of course, it has quite a number of headlines for you.
All right, now the Leadership Friday, and beside the nameplate, and it says here, it's a sports segment. Former Super Eagles player ends football career to chase a National Assembly seat. And if you're wondering who that is, you have to flip over to page 38 of the Leadership Friday to find out. Now below that on page 4, it says, Presidency, Wike knock Atiku over 2027 presidential ambition remarks. And on page 22, it says, soaring aviation fuel prices, Keyamo to mediate as oil marketers, domestic airlines clash. And the star story on the Leadership Friday says, Middle East crisis, Nigeria has no intention of approaching IMF for loans, says Edun. And the writer says reforms have built resilience into economy, and that's from the finance minister. And that read is on page 4. Still on the Leadership Friday says gunmen intercept Benue bus, abduct 15 passengers, including UTME candidates. And that read is on page 21. And below that, it says here, Kaduna Easter attack. Bandits demand 1 billion naira ransom to free 37 abducted worshippers. Okay. And on page 7, it says Operation Safe Corridor. Neither amnesty nor sign of weakness. And that's from the Chief of Defense Staff. That's on page 20. And it says court orders arrest of former humanitarian minister. That's on page 7. And still on the Leadership Friday on page 7 again. It says, Emir of Zauzau advocates constitutional role for traditional leaders. And basically, those are all the major headlines on the Leadership Friday. You got to get yourself a copy and well abreast with major issues making rounds. Next, we have the Daily Times.
All right, well, let's begin with the ones above the name mast for you, two of them. Top right corner, ex-Nigeria Airways staff decry delay in 36 billion naira severance, alleged sabotage. Reps probe NAIC, Leadway, Veritas Capital over 1.12 trillion naira Anchor Boros program. Then the Star headline says 2027, that's the kicker. No automatic tickets for lawmakers, other aspirants, APC, so there has to be primaries. Everybody throw your hat in the ring, show what you've got. Government adopts candidates traveling for JAMB UTME exams in Benue. Wike dismisses Atiku's 2027 presidential chances, says he is a serial failure. The former Vice President Jumai has said this will be the last time he will be standing for election for president. Yes. And I've seen people write articles. I've seen those who have also expressed their concerns or their position on television interview. They say, look, we would have thought the former vice president, who at this point in time is eminently eligible or qualified to be referred to as an elder statesman, would step back and allow someone else go try on the platform of whatever opposition party may be. In this case, who knows, the ADC, for instance. But from all indications, given the interview the former VP granted about 2 days ago, it is now evident that he would be running again.
Yes, he will be. But at the same time, he says this is the last time. So automatically, I was speaking with someone, a friend of mine abroad, and he said something. He said, well, with this statement, it's a win. Who knows? He might change his mind later on. Let's just see what he brings.
Right.
But I said, there's something about meeting a particular target in your mind. If you've not achieved a particular height and it's in your dreams, you will try as much as possible. It doesn't matter the affluence that you have, the wealth that you have. You see that president, that word president, it takes a huge toll on an individual. It doesn't matter, it might not be president, it might be something else, but something that's on your bucket list that you want to achieve in life. If you don't, it just, that space that says never give up, I think that's what is playing up now. But let's just hope, let's see what it brings. Who knows?
He was first to run up, as they say, in 2023.
Yes,
and
he was.
Yes, that was when the late former president, Buhari, was cycling out his 8-year period in office. But now, by the end of 2020, in fact, by May 29 next year, President Tinubu would have completed one term in office.
Oh, yes.
But then there are concerns around the presidential aspiration of former Vice President Atiku Abubakar. One of them is to say that power has got to remain in the South for the next 4 years, of course, terminating in 2031.
Yes.
Second, the North is disciplined enough to understand that, look, we are coming back to power in 2031. Therefore, let's not distort this understanding, this arrangement. Power has got to remain in the South. So there's also the concern, that's the point I'm making now, that the former vice president is not likely going to enjoy so much of support even from the North. Talk less of from the South, which ultimately minimizes his chances. But then, like you said, the man has nursed this ambition for over 2 decades. Therefore, who's going to stop him now?
No one. It's just God. And that's the thing. His mind is made up. That phase never give up. It's very powerful, especially when you look at it every day and you know that I will not give up. One day I'm going to get this. One day. Just like late President Muhammadu Buhari, who, you know how it was. We all know the story. And he became president finally. So that's how it is. People have faith in what they believe in. So if you hold on to it, who knows?
Those are your headlines at this point in time. Please be sure to read up details for yourself and also ensure that as you do that, you stay ahead of fake news. Let's now go to our next port of call. Juma has those headlines for us from the Nigerian Tribune.
All right, now in the Nigerian Tribune, and below the nameplate, it says here, 2027 presidency, no one can scare me, Tinubu vows. And that's on page 4, and it says, its turn It's turn of the South Presidency replies Atiku. And that's on page 20. And on page 26, it says, court issues warrant of arrest against ex-minister Farouk, one other. And on page 5, it says, CBN pegs BVN enrollment age at 18, limits phone number changes. Okay. And on page 6, it says, Odu's investment election energy seal, $40 million deal. And the health segment says here, occasional heavy drinking poses major risk to liver. And that study, and that's on page 26. And moving to page 19, it says, Oyo Speaker escapes impeachment and as Makinde intervenes. That's on page 19. And on page 5, it says, oil marketers blame rising cost of jet AI on global supply disruptions, logistic expenses. And on page 3, it says, police arrest 6 in Ondo for planning bomb attack. Now, that's a precautionary measure we're talking about in Ondo. The proactiveness is very important. I think we should imbibe that here in the FCT and go along with. Basically, those are the major headlines on the Nigerian Tribune. Please go out and get yourself a copy and be well informed with the issues making rounds. Next, we have this day.
All right, so this day it is above the nameplate. It says Dangote rallies World Bank, IMF, US Exim chiefs on investments in Nigeria's energy industrial sectors. On this day newspaper, that will have those. All right, so 2 writers with it as well. It says declares foreign interest fighting against Africa's development. Dangote Industries spotlights refinery vision 2030 orders at Nasarawa Trade Fair. Okay, AP security forces on high alert over planned attacks on key public facilities. On page 6 is where you can read up details for yourself. Akpabio urges global shift from war to development, calls for stronger UN rules. Tinubu, I remain undeterred by antics of opposition. I won't retreat. Exactly half a dozen writers with that story, that headline on this day newspaper for you. Okay. Then again, we have the last one here that reads of robbery, bank robbery. Kwara government slams 20 counts culpable homicide against Saraki Ahmed, 2 others on page 34 of this day newspaper. Please, those are your headlines. Be sure to read the details as you move into this amazing, promising Friday. Next port of call is the Nigerian News Direct.
All right, now the Nigerian News Direct, above the nameplate, it says Oyetola commissions Namasa Unilag Maritime Hub. And that read you will find on page 3. And on page 21, it says Sule bags Wadada as preferred APC governor candidate. And on the Star story on the Nigerian News Direct says FG to release 744 repentant terrorists after completing rehabilitation. And that you will find on page 22. Next on page 23 says police foil bomb plot, arrest 6 in Akure. And on page 17 it says gunmen abduct 14 JAM candidates in Benue ambush. And here it says Odu's Electron Inc. agreement for development of 50 megawatt power plant. And basically, those are all the major headlines on the Nigerian News Direct. Please go out and get yourself a copy and be well abreast or well informed with the major issues making rounds. And the last point of call, which is the last paper.
Yeah, the Punch newspaper.
It's the Punch newspaper giving us some very punchy headlines.
As always.
As always.
All right, just above the name master of it, it says 2027 battle. That's actually the kicker. Tinubu fires shots at opposition heavyweights on page 43. Adjacent the name mast, U.S. ambassador posts vacant in Nigeria, 116 other countries, as according to reports. So in all, you have a total of 117 countries where the U.S. ambassador posts are open. A big headline on the front page: federal government moves to tighten airports, prison security. 3 riders with it: police, NIS, Nigerian Correctional Service on red alert to contain threat. 744 ex-terrorists graduate from rehabilitation camp. Security experts demand drastic action against terrorism. And then we have a couple of more headlines on the left side of the front page. UTME candidates, travelers abducted in Benue attack. No plan to borrow from IMF's $50 billion fund that is attributed to the federal government. All right, those are your headlines, all of your headlines from across newspapers this morning. As is always the case, we'd like to remind you that Global Television, as a broadcast media entity, all the team here on Global Morning does not in any way have contributions to these papers. As a matter of fact, what we do is bring you the headlines exactly as published by their respective publishers. Time to take a break. When we return, Ogochukwu will be here with Social Buzz. Wake up with Global Morning, your daily guide to what's happening and making the rounds.
We delve into headlines, newspaper reviews, spot-on analysis, policies, current events, real talk, real issues that affect us all.
From the latest trends to the debate, every topic, every angle, Global Morning is where it all starts.
Global Morning,
For the latest issues,
always on point.
Watch Global Morning Monday to Friday at 7 a.m. Saturday and Sunday at 8 a.m. on Global Television.
When social media speaks, we listen and we bring you the extra. It's your one-stop shop for trends, tweets, and the tea everyone's sipping on. Join the conversation, share your thoughts, and get that extra dose of what's shaking the internet.
And on issues making wave on social media to your doorstep.
Social Buzz Extra, where the trend meets the talk, only on Global TV.
Good morning, Nigerians and viewers around the world. It's time to look at buzzing issues on social media. And the Nigerian military has debunked the claim that it's trying to reintegrate repentant terrorists into their communities. Coordinator of the Operation Safe Corridor, Brigadier General Yusuf Ali, disclosed this during a media tour of facilities at the De-Radicalization, Rehabilitation and Reintegration Center in Gombe, Northeast Nigeria. Brigadier General Ali stated that many Nigerians lack adequate understanding of the federal government's structured counter-terrorism program under Operation Safe Corridor. He explained that the program is aimed at rebuilding peace in communities affected by terrorism across the country. According to the report, some of the clients at the camp explained that their involvement in the offense that led to their admission into Operation Safe Corridor. The media tour of the facility is in preparation for the graduation ceremony of over 700 clients who have been de-radicalized, rehabilitated, and are set to be reintegrated into their communities. This comes as the Nigerian military denied claims that de-radicalization, radicalized clients of Operation Safe Corridors are being recruited into military institutions. Let's take a look at that video.
From the Operation Safe Corridor. The military has its own process, systems, and procedure for enlisting people into the military. So this is part of the challenges Operation Safe Corridor is facing: challenge of misrepresentation, challenge of misinformation, challenge of disinformation.
Where they brought us to this place. It was when I went to the court that I discovered that it was the case of the person that they were tracking that I was answering. So that was how I find myself here, sir.
Firstly, I thought maybe if I'm in outside, I don't know what may happen to me, because by virtual, I thought the case that led me to this problem is not up to the time I spent in the detention. I just believe it's destiny.
All right, so that's the video there from Brigadier General Ali, who was trying to, let the public know that these are not terrorists as claimed by the public, and saying that this, rehabilitation and also, all of these claims are supposed to be for some persons that have been in prison. They all committed different crimes, but they feel like this rehabilitation is going to help them. They've already gone through different process. And, he mentioned some of the processes that, that we're taking or they've gone through before, bringing them. And there are 700 of them. Although people still feel like this is, maybe there's something in between, and, the military aren't saying the truth, because a lot of persons still feel like these are terrorists, and terrorists do not have any reason to come back into the community. Well, let's also, read some comments from social media as regards this topic. And the first topic, comments coming from Mr. King Ime. And King Ime says, "I'm sorry for all the soldiers that have died serving Nigeria. This is a big slap to their sacrifice." All right, thank you, King Ime. And the next comment is coming from Eukaria Ifenyinwa. And Ifenyinwa says, "They should release everybody that are in prison and rehabilitate and reintegrate them back to the society as well, federal government." All right. The last for today, but not the least, is coming from engineer Alo Joseph. And Alo Joseph says, "Tomorrow, Nigerian army will be complaining about moles and ambush, whereas these are so-called repentant prodigal sons and are responsible for everything we did. Who did we offend, Biko?" All right, so thank you everyone who dropped their thoughts concerning this issue. And I'm not alone today in the studio. I have with me Uyi Agumokwe. Good morning, Uyi.
Very good morning to you, Ogochukwu Mobono. You look very rehabilitated.
God, why do you say so? From what exactly?
That's some sarcasm.
All right, it's Friday morning and we're talking insecurity in the country. We just saw that some I won't say jamba, but students who were going out to write, this UTME exams were abducted by gunmen and in Benue State, and they are yet to even get any information concerning them. I also saw a disturbing video on social media the early hours of this morning where gunmen were displaying their money, the money they got from, what's it called again, ransom. These money, is in millions, and, I don't know if they've got, I think that money should be up to $1 billion, because right now they're even demanding for billions. They are no longer demanding for millions of naira. And these people put these things on social media. They put them on different TikTok, pages or profile that they've got, and we still haven't heard any headway when it comes to, arresting these terrorists. And right now we are seeing something that looks like a rehabilitation of these terrorists and also reintegration into their various communities. In as much as Brigadier General Ali has, denied this claim, some persons still feel like they're not getting the results they want to, or they're not hearing what they want to hear, because it seems like that's what it looks like, reintegrating criminals into the society. Meanwhile, they're supposed to face the crime. What do you think about this particular development?
All right, Ogochukwu, first of all, there's nothing I think about it today that I had not thought about it yesterday and the day before that and the day before that. So my thought about this, my position has been very consistent, been very constant, same as for every Nigerian who has the best interest of this great nation at heart, right? I've heard people compare the idea, because that's what it still is, the idea, even though we know it's in practice in some parts of the states up north, with what had happened in Niger Delta in the days of agitation by militants. Those militants were very clear. Of course, the Obasanjo government knew that right from day one. Of course, Asari Dokubo had been taken into custody for an extensive period of time, to the point that, he was in prison for so long that when he came out, he couldn't even recognize Abuja anymore. That was for how long he was incarcerated at that point in time. Now, let's talk about how clear those militants or ex-agitators were on what they wanted. They said, look, we want to have a fair share of the resources taken away from our land. We want to have our water clean enough for our people to drink. We want to have communities feel measurable impact of the fact that these resources are trapped under their own soil. It was as simple as that, right? Even though we know till today that cleanup has never really happened, especially as it has to do with Ogoni land. Under former President, now late, Muhammadu Buhari, we heard that some 20 billion naira would be plowed into cleanup in Ogoni. And then, of course, we saw and we heard former Vice President Oshimbajo talk about it quite a number of times, but it never happened. That's what Niger Delta. Yes. In fact, in the case of Niger Delta, there was an agency set up for it, the Amnesty Program. Yes. All right, with a leadership structure, with resources, with systems, with a mandate.
And they still pump money into that.
Up until this point.
So standing here.
The thinking around it is systemic, is institutional. All right. But can we say the same about all of these hula balu around let's rehabilitate militants, terrorists? For somebody learning elementary English, you should understand that an agitator is not the same thing as a terrorist. A terrorist is somebody who's committing offenses or crimes on a national security scale. It's not the same thing as somebody who says, oh God, you can't be using my computer to do business and I'm not getting something from it. I'm not saying don't use my computer. That is even on a personal level. But what am I getting in return? Because on account of the fact that you use this computer Monday to Friday for your own business, it means, it just simply means that wear and tear will happen over time. How do I replace my computer?
Responsible for it.
Exactly. So that's what it is. We must establish that. And then we have asked, I have personally asked, what is the policy? What is the legal framework around this rehabilitation and reintegration? And I'll tell you something that's even more embarrassing, that the military authorities are now denying that we have no idea about all of this rehabilitation and reintegration. We are not part of it. We had seen the top echelon of the Nigerian military in this country say that we are not for reintegration and rehabilitation. You can't be a terrorist. You can't commit so much of heinous crimes against a nation. And then we all wake up one morning and say, come take a hug and eat breakfast and get back in bed with us. It doesn't work like that in any sane society. And Nigeria as a country, I'm sure and I hope, does not want to set that bad example.
I think this is going to bring a bit of a divisive tendency, because a lot of persons right now are asking, why do you reintegrate and rehabilitate these people? Meanwhile, from the north, because most of these people, you hear terrorists from the north and all of that, although they're in different parts of the country. Meanwhile, you get to arrest IPOB, military people who are fighting for their own, country.
They say they want secession. They want to go their own way. Of course, that will happen ordinarily without a referendum, which Nigeria doesn't look ready for at this point in time.
Yes. So they just say, okay, you kind of, arrest some persons, make sure that they are being detained and all of that. Meanwhile, some other persons, you reintegrate them back into the system and calling them repentant terrorists. Where on earth do we see that? Only in Nigeria. I think it is only in Nigeria that I've heard repentant terrorists. I don't think I've heard it anywhere aside Nigeria. And it's so bad that we are fighting for security. Insecurity is ravaging the country, and our military men who are supposed to help, safeguard the four walls of the country are reintegrating these terrorists that is disturbing them. Because we've seen military men, die in the face of the war. We've seen many people being buried. We've seen generals die, brigadier generals and all of that die in the face of the war, and you still reintegrate these people who killed you, who killed all of these people. What exactly do we want? What are we even working towards? Like you said, if you're agitating for something, we know you're agitating for something, and we'll come to a consensus. We'll discuss about it. This one, what exactly are they agitating for? Do they want like their own states, their own country? What exactly are they fighting for? You kidnap innocent people, you kill innocent people, you get money for ransom, and there is no reason why you're doing that exactly. And so far, honestly, I was talking to someone yesterday. I said, so far, I've not really seen anyone come to address the public concerning insecurity in this country as they should. What we keep hearing is, the last time we heard, they are our brothers, they are like prodigal sons. When they come back, you receive them. How do you receive terrorists with their wide arms? Like, I don't even get to understand it. Sometimes my emotions get the best part of me when I'm talking about this, because you might just tell yourself, these are not my brothers, they are not related to me. But who knows? Tomorrow, who knows who that will be? These people who went out to write their UTME exams, they didn't know that they were going to face such a thing. These are young people. These are future leaders who are trying to make way for themselves, are trying to make sure that they go through the right path, because they tell you education is the key and you want to go through the right path. Never did they know that they were going to meet this kind of deadly attack. Who knows? Nobody knows the fate of these children. They don't know if they're going to come back, or if it's going to be like the case of the Chibok girls. We have no idea. The Chibok girls since 2014. Today we have seen 200. Tomorrow we've seen 50. Next month, how are we even sure that those are the girls? These are things we're talking about. We shouldn't, soft pedal this situation. Honestly, I feel so sad that we still keep talking about rehabilitating and reintegrating criminals into the society. What happened to? I don't know, I don't want to mention, but a lot, we used to see back then in the military days, although I was not there in the military days, but I heard stories, when immediately you catch a terrorist or a criminal, you do what is supposed to be done. Let's know where we are going to. Let's know how many has been reduced and how we can move forward. That's just it.
Just to add to this, Ogachukwu, it's not the military that's reintegrating these people. The Nigerian military, that's a combination of the army, Air Force and Navy, has made it very clear that, look, we do not support reintegration. We do not support this issue of rehabilitation. That's number one. Number two, have you asked yourself, what is the federal government's position on whether or not we should rehabilitate? The federal government has not stated its position about it.
That is it.
So it is, what you have it is politicians at the state level, in a number of cases, the state governors who are driving this. So it's not the Nigerian army, and that's why you saw a very senior ranking military officer there talking about that no such thing has happened. So all of those reintegrations you see, they are done on the basis of emotions, on the basis of politics, and all thanks to those governors who are doing all that. But we do know that issues of security, especially and specifically national security, rest squarely with the federal government. It's exclusive to the federal government. And it's a shame that we'll be in a country in 2026 where governors can be determining the direction of how the military should approach issues of national security, when you have people from all across the region crossing into our space to undermine. I mean, have you not seen the recent reports about how even militants, not militants in this case, terrorists intend to attack airports here in Abuja and, of course, other critical infrastructure of public interest? And you think that's a joke?
This is a serious issue. I also went through, the papers when you and Juma were going through the papers, and I saw where the president said, if you think, I think I watched it, in one blog like that, and he said, if you are not seeing what the president has done for the country, or you're not seeing the development that has taken place since I assumed office in 2023, then you'll be needing me to offer you glasses. And I said, it's more like you don't have to say anything. That means everything is working fine. And people were clapping, they were laughing. It looks more like a comedy night. I really feel for the country, and I'm just hoping and praying that we get to see the new Nigeria soon, hopefully. All right, this is the size of our conversation today on Social Buzz on Global Morning. I am Ogachukwu Mobno. Good morning once again, Nigeria and the rest of the world. We and Juma will be bringing us the discussion section of Global Morning. So stay with us. Bye.
When social media speaks, we listen and we bring you the extra. It's your one-stop shop for trends, tweets, and the tea everyone's sipping on. Join the conversation, share your thoughts, and get that extra dose of what's shaking the internet.
And on issues making wave on social media to your doorstep.
Social Buzz Extra, where the trend meets the talk, only on Global TV.
Wake up with Global Morning, your daily guide to what's happening and making the rounds.
We delve into headlines, newspaper reviews, spot-on analysis, policies, current events, real talk, real issues that affect us all.
From the latest trends to the debate, every topic, every angle, Global Morning is where it all starts.
Global Morning,
For the latest issues,
always on point.
Watch Global Morning Monday to Friday at 7 a.m. Saturday and Sunday at 8 a.m. on Global Television.
At Witchtech Cables, we don't just make cables, we deliver excellence. Our products are built with advanced technology, trusted for their unmatched quality and durability. With a wide range of cables, swift delivery, and continuous innovation, we stay ahead of the market demand. We are proudly Nigerian, fully indigenous, yet world-class. Backed by a professional team, strong technical support, and a deep commitment to customer satisfaction. Witchtech Cables is more than a brand, it's a promise. Witchtech Cables, quality cables better than the best.
In an age of breaking news, you need a trusted source that prioritizes accurate, factual, and unbiased reporting. This is AM News, and I am Ubong Usoro.
On Global Television, our news is rooted in verified and authoritative storytelling that keeps you educated, informed, and enlightened on all the issues that matter to you. I am Sadia Yakubu. This is Midday News.
You can trust a multi-platform news broadcast, real-time and fast-check stories for all the big local and foreign headlines round the clock. I am Ramsey Enoch Agbo. This is News Express.
Our array of anchors delivers the news to our teeming viewers, breaking it down with context and perspective. This is News Cycle on Global Television. I am Anieti Patrick.
And the flagship news is your hub for the day's most engaging stories. This is News Prime, and I am Jumai Manson.
Did you miss any of our news rounds? No worries. Catch up at 10 p.m. and midnight, 7 days of the week. I am Mukhtar Kasim.
Global TV is on DSTV channel 365 and Star Times channel 276. We're active across all social media platforms at Global TV NG.
Global TV News, accurate and unbiased. I'm Uyi Agmofwebe. All right, so let's cycle back to the issue of insecurity as it stands right now. We've seen the president dozens of times speak to his concerns about these very disturbing events, and then, of course, reassure citizens of his commitment to ensuring that we win this war as quickly as possible. You know, Gochuku mentioned something very disturbing again just a while ago on the program when she talked about some terrorists displaying and flaunting cash. It's not the first time. We have seen those who will ride around, celebrating, jubilating on bikes, throwing cash in the air. Some of them, they live like there are some celebrities somewhere in maybe Hollywood or Nollywood, and these are people who are proudly terrorists.
Yes, they are.
Somebody asked a question, and that question has been again asked by many people. Is it like the law enforcement doesn't know where these people are? Because we're seeing in this country where somebody said something unprintable about former President Buhari. It didn't take so long for that person to be found. We have seen cases where governors have had to find those who, even journalists, who wrote things they were not comfortable with. Not because they wrote falsehood, not because they lied in their articles or their reports.
They spoke truth to
but because the governor felt, this is not what I like, yes. And then he went all the way out to ensure that he got his pound of flesh. How is it that at a national level, in this day and age, we find people who have killed, who have maimed, who have burned houses, who have shut down, as it were, entire communities, and then we're able to find them? We say they're in Sambisa forest. You have no idea how big that forest is. You think that forest is just your compound. It's so big. But if those people were in those places saying things that are not palatable or that this government considers unpalatable, are we saying the DSS would have found them? Are we saying the police would have found them? Are we saying the DMI would have found them? I'm just curious because, you see, like I mentioned at the top of this part of our conversation, it is one thing that the government of President Bola Tinubu continues to assure Nigerians end to end across this country of how that the war against all kinds of criminality and insecurity will be won shortly. You are asking, or you're wondering, you're curious, are the actions of government pointing in that direction? You see, one of the worst things that can happen, even at the level of leadership on a small scale, is when you have leaders whose words are going in one direction and their actions are going in a different direction. And then we expect the people to take it seriously. It doesn't work. Even at the level of parenting, a father or mother can say one thing this way and do something else another way. That conflict that it creates in the head of the child already is a problem.
In communities, live in their communities, they actually, people know them, can actually place their face to them. He wasn't wrong, because these
Wake up with Global Morning, your daily guide to what's happening and making the rounds.
We delve into headlines, newspaper reviews, spot-on analysis, policies, current events, real talk, real issues that affect us all.
From the latest trends to the debate, every topic, every angle, Global Morning is where it all starts.
Global Morning.
For the latest issues,
Always on point.
We apologize for that very slight interruption, but we're back and we're better now, talking about terrorism. Yes, that's what we're talking about, like the space of insecurity, conflicts, and all of that encompass. And I said something. I said there are financiers, individuals who finance these individuals in our dear country, Nigeria. Why? Because there's so much money to make when it comes to insecurity, and most people will not want it to go away as soon as possible, at the detriment of people's lives, properties, at detriment of individuals' homes being divided and all of that. It's just unfortunate that this is what it is, and hopefully the needful is done. And like I mentioned before, to revert back to what the Chief of Defense Staff said, General Ufemi Oluyede, he says these individuals, they live within the communities. People know that they identify with them, and because they do not want to be brought out or mayhem coming to that particular community, they just keep quiet about it. They don't give the right intel and details to security agencies, so they just live with them as, okay, this is what they do and all of that. It's just unfortunate that this is where we are. Insecurity has created a very big lacuna in Nigeria, and hopefully the needful is done. And for these terrorists displaying that worth of cash, you know, when you mentioned it, I was really shocked that is ransom money. And in all, sometimes they must have killed their victims, sometimes they will not, they continue to ask for more and more. It's just unfortunate. But hope if we want to get them, they can. It's just that we need to do the needful.
It's interesting. You know, the part that worries most of us, which Ogochukwu talked about on a segment a while ago, is this issue of rehabilitating and reintegrating militants. Yes, those who have served their time, I mean, they've done their time, because we understand some had been convicted before now. So once they have served out their jail term and they are out into society, yes, we can talk about integration. We can find a way to, as it were, rewire them, all right, and make them useful in ways that are measurable, valuable to society. But for those who we say have come forward to, as it were, renounce their ways, what can we do? What should we do? They are brothers, they are sisters. Let's help them, bring them back in, rehabilitate them. You know, just find a way to, you know, brush them up and then bring them back into society because they are repentant. So the question is, how in this context do we define repentance? What are the indicators that they are repentant? What are they even repenting from in the first instance, right? So I come to you, I say, Jumai, good morning, hope you had a great night. Please, I apologize. I sincerely apologize. I'm here to tender my unreserved apology. The first thing that goes off in your head is, what is this man apologizing for? Even if you say you're apologizing for 200 offenses or crimes or hurts, at least can you not mention one? You can't just apologize in the air. What have you done exactly? Did you steal something that belongs to me? Did you say something behind my back that you wouldn't want me to say about you behind your back? What exactly are you apologizing for? So what are these people repenting from? And who are they repenting to, so to say? I mean, who are they confessing to now? Is it state governors? Is it the top hierarchy of the military? Is it the federal government? Is it the people of their state, their community, their local government, or the entire country? We've got to have these statistics. I mean, these specifics. We've got to now ask ourselves, what is the framework? I know, for example, many years ago, we had former President Olusegun Obasanjo in a place like my state, Edo. We had Lucky Gbenedi as a governor. Universities came up with this idea of, well, cultism was on the rise and schools were getting shut down every now and then. There was so much of disruption in academic calendars across universities and polytechnics. The idea of renunciation now came up. So if Mr. A or Ms. B had been a member of a cult, they had that window of opportunity to come out and renounce. There were structures around it at that point in time. Just like the way I said, there were also structures around the amnesty program in the South or in the Niger Delta. And that window was not forever. It was between now and so time. Surrender your arms and ammunition, just surrender altogether, turn a new leaf, as they say, and that was it. There was no forever. But in this case, as we're seeing, talking about rehabilitating and accepting back terrorists, we are not even clear who is coordinating it. Where do they meet? Is there an agency that is in charge? All right, who is driving that process? Who is investing in that process? Whose idea is it? Whose interest does it serve? Is it one governor? Is it two governors? Is it 5, 10 governors? Is it politicians in a particular bracket? Is it the Nigerian people? These are questions we must find answers to.
And these are questions that we really need answers to when it comes to this sort of issue. Who does this really serve? Truly. And a lot of people just sit back, and that is why, taking you back to these repentant terrorists, a lot of people have a lot of concerns. They say to themselves, if you're really repentant, you will serve time. You have these individuals, some have killed breadwinners, they have destroyed lives and properties, they've taken people's incomes, they don't even care. And even if you're repentant, still serve time, still serve that jail time to actually prove to us that you're repentant. But when you just say these individuals are repentant, they've gone for rehabilitation and they are back into society again, what makes you think they will not go back? There's something called relapse, just like drug addiction. There's something like that. And it's just unfortunate that, although they're all allegations, let's just hope and see what this brings at the forefront. Let's just see and see. We hope that it's for the greater good and the betterment of Nigeria and, of course, Nigerians. But, of course, the military have debunked claims of reintegrating 700 repentant terrorists. So let's see, because a lot of people had a lot to say about that. 700 is a lot of numbers, and if you tell me that you're integrating them into society, that's a very big problem, because these individuals, we don't know how far they have gone or how brainwashed their mind must have been, but since they're all allegations and speculation, so fingers crossed, basically.
The issue is not even whether you want to rehabilitate them, you want to reintegrate them or not. It's about what is the intention behind it. Are you doing it from a place of sentiments, emotions, for your selfish interests, because you have ambition in 2027, or you want to save face? These are pertinent concerns. Are you doing it because you are overwhelmed? You feel this is the last resort. There's nothing better than this we know to do than what we're doing now, or what we propose to do now. We must ask ourselves that. In the case of the amnesty program in Niger Delta, under the leadership of late former President Musa Yar'Adua, the idea was to say that, look, we understand you people have you've been oppressed, you've been suppressed, you've been neglected. As a matter of fact, your resources have been exploited without you getting, with you getting next to nothing from it. And there has to be some sort of justice. There has to be some sort of fairness, or, if you like, equity. And at that point in time, what happened? The Yar'Adua government, as it then was, rolled out the amnesty program. And the government, I understand at that point in time, also tried to see how the IOCs, that's the international oil companies, could play their parts in that program. And billions, perhaps by today trillions, have gone into it. We're seeing graduates home and abroad emerge from that program. We're seeing people learn skills that have changed their lives economically and otherwise for the better, and will stay so for the rest of their lives. We are seeing people now have a rethink. As a matter of fact, people like the person who is now in charge of the protection of pipelines and other installations, critical oil installations and gas as well in the South. He's a product of that process. All right, so what are we saying? We're saying that when we want to put up a program like this, we must be clear on there's something called call to action. Call to action simply means that you're doing a thing, you're rolling out an initiative, you already know what you want to achieve with it. We must be clear on that from the beginning. And then we must not put policies in place like we did with the amnesty program. We must not have leadership structure in place as well. Otherwise, what we are doing is just more like a man who is, as it were, running end to end in a dark room. And the question is, even if he does that for one whole year, 365 days, what exactly will he achieve at the end?
It's very important that we look at the outcome of all of these. And like I mentioned before, you said something very critical. We must have structures put in place. We're going to have a program like the amnesty, which was a step in the right direction at the point. Really, it was to just bringing everyone together on a round table. And these were not people say they were criminals and all, but they were fighting for what was theirs. They were not getting what was due to them. That's a different ballgame compared to Boko Haram. So at the same time, these policies, these structures need to be put in place in order for the betterment. And of course, I always say, Nigerians, we carry out, or individuals in the high up there, we carry out these fantastic ideas. We start to run with them, but there's no feedback, no monitoring committee to give us a particular data on how far this is going, how much they have done, what is the impact it is making in their lives and all of that. So it's very important that these policies and structures need to be put in place in order to have a very important and heavy-weighted result. It's very important. It will go a long way so that individuals will actually feel like human beings at the same time. So it's very important that we understand all of this, but I think it's long overdue, I would say, but at the same time, well, in a balance for the betterment, at the same time, we should not just put it at the back of our heads that whatever we do should be for the benefit of Nigerians and the security of Nigerians, because most Nigerians have gone through a lot when it comes to the hands of these insurgents. Really, they have. Those back-to-back, like I've told you, some in IDPs, their source of livelihood from where they're coming from. These are breadwinners who could afford to do whatever they want. They had a source of income. Now that they're displaced, that which has caused, they do not have a source of income. So it's very, there's so much empathy around that. But at the same time, hopefully the needful will be done as soon as possible, basically, and that structure needs to be put in place so there can be a balance. So that once you have leverage and say, okay, it's for the benefit of the federal government or state government or individuals, there won't be any more. There should be a balance to understand that, okay, fine, this is a structure and this is how it's going to be, and people should abide and follow it. It's very important.
Very important, Juma, no doubt about that. We're taking a quick break, and just to let you know, we'll be turning to Kebbi State later on the program. That'll be in about some 25 minutes, to join the Commissioner of Police there to help us understand what the, as it were, the rate of crime has been in that state, where he took over as the CP, and then where we are today in terms of the efforts that the command has made to ensure that it steps ahead of criminal elements from across that northwestern states. All of that and more after this break. Please don't go away.
In an age of breaking news, you need a trusted source that prioritizes accurate, factual, and unbiased reporting. This is AM News, and I am Ubong Usoro.
On global television, our news is rooted in verified and authoritative storytelling that keeps you educated, informed, and enlightened on all the issues that matter to you. I am Sadia Yakubu. This is Midday News.
You can trust a multi-platform news broadcast real-time and fast-check stories for all the big local and foreign headlines round the clock. I am Ramsey Enoch Agbo. This is News Express.
Our array of anchors delivers the news to our teeming viewers, breaking it down with context and perspective. This is News Cycle on Global Television. I am Anieti Patrick.
And the flagship news is your hub for the day's most engaging stories. This is News Prime, and I am Jumai Manson.
Wake up with Global Morning, your daily guide to what's happening and making the rounds.
We delve into headlines, newspaper reviews, spot-on analysis, policies, current events, real talk, real issues that affect us all.
From the latest trends to the debate, every topic, every angle, Global Morning is where it all starts.
Global Morning,
For the latest issues,
always on point.
Watch Global Morning Monday to Friday at 7 a.m. Saturday and Sunday at 8 a.m. on Global Television.
In an age of breaking news, you need a trusted source that prioritizes accurate, factual, and unbiased reporting. This is AM News, and I am Ubong Usoro.
On Global Television, our news is rooted in verified and authoritative storytelling that keeps you educated, informed, and enlightened on all the issues that matter to you. I am Sadia Yakubu. This is Midday News.
You can trust a multi-platform news broadcast real-time and fast-check stories for all the big local and foreign headlines round the clock. I am Ramsey Enoch Agbo. This is News Express.
Our array of anchors delivers the news to our teeming viewers, breaking it down with context and perspective. This is News Cycle on Global Television. I am Anieti Patrick.
And the flagship news is your hub for the day's most engaging stories. This is News Prime, and I am Jumai Manson.
Did you miss any of our news rounds? No worries. Catch up at 10 p.m. and midnight, 7 days of the week. I am Mukhtar Kasim.
Global TV is on DSTV channel 365 and Star Times channel 276. We're active across all social media platforms at Global TV NG.
Global TV News, accurate and unbiased. I'm Uyi Agmofwebe. Let's turn our sights now to some very disturbing human angle, real time problem about trafficking. You know, back in the day, trafficking was something that would sound like a taboo, not at the level of government, but at the community level, where parents or guardians were not proud of trafficking their children or those who were in their custody. But today, it has been very commercialized, if you like, endeavor, to the point that parents, in some cases, don't even have to think twice or bait an eyelid to do that. But there's this story coming out from Ogun State talking about two fathers who have trafficked, or at least attempted to traffic their daughters. I mean, each of them a daughter. And you're wondering what could have been the motivation for that? How bad was the situation to the point of resorting to trafficking their own daughters? Juma is a woman apparently and a mom. I'm sure this strikes terror in the heart.
Yes, it does. And of course, when I read through that story, the man is a widower. Automatically, his spouse is late, and you say to him, I'm sure what you say in his mind is, oh my goodness, how will I take care of the children, 15-year-old? But you see, that's the thing, that's what life does. You just have to walk your way around it. That doesn't justify you to traffic these young girls. 15-year of age and child labor. And we know what happens when you go to Libya. And of course, I don't want to use the word. They are used as sex slaves. They are used to traffic drugs from one country to another. They come back with diseases. They are forced to be intimate with all sorts of things. I just don't want to mention a few. And it's really devastating. And to understand that in your mind, you already know, and to traffic these girls, there are other ways. There is no justification for it. There is none at all. There is no justification to traffic. And apparently, the storyline, one of his daughters died in the process. It's just one that is they're trying to return her back home. It's just unfortunate that these things happen. And of course, you know how it is in your state.
Where you, at least on one leg, come from?
Half Edo.
Your half state.
But at the same time, it's a very serious problem. Why? And we know that these things happen when parents push their children to go hustle when it comes to prostitution and all of that. It's just it's uncalled for. And for this man, Mr. Akisande, that had the effrontery to actually do this, there is no justification. It's wrong in all levels. It's unfair. It's ungodly. Even God will not be happy, because you want accountability even to the children. You will give account. Even to what you do in your home, you must give account to God. And when God has blessed you with this child, this is what you can do. Let her go through the desert. Go to Libya. You don't even know a 15-year-old. She's not even 18, which is not even justifiable. But 15 at that age, what does she know? Come on, that's not fair. But I believe, fingers crossed, by the grace of God, the law must definitely take its course. And what do you owe? If her mother was alive, I don't think the mother would have allowed that, no matter what. No mom would. Some would, I'm sure. And what you owe your spouse that has passed on, what legacy would you say, is for you to give your best to the children. That's all you can give. Your best to ensure that the kids turn out right. At least that is a stamp that you say, okay, fine. His spouse, that's the wife, died in the process. What he can do is adjust. No one prays that his or her spouse should die, but at the same time, it's inevitable. Some of us, we found ourselves in that particular shoes, and we just have to adjust.
What can you do?
What can you do? You just have to adjust. It's very important, and to ensure that that legacy of that person still stays in flying colors. Not to give your child out for child labor. It's very emotional. It's very sad, but there's no justification. The law must take its course, and he should pay for that, because it's not fair. That girl is a child. She doesn't even know what she thinks she's. And you know, the thing about it is about being brainwashed and saying you are doing this for the family. No, you're doing it for his greed and for himself. There are other ways. If he couldn't do it, he should have learned a trade or something, and who knows what can come out from there. If you cannot afford education, there are better ways.
Better and legitimate ways.
Legitimate ways. It's just unfortunate.
You know, it's interesting how that we're seeing collaboration from all over the world, all in a bid to end this scourge, as I'd like to call it, of trafficking, especially in young girls, minors. Right? It's crazy. We're seeing governments from across Europe. Of course, Scandinavian area too. We're seeing even the US. We're seeing Australia come to join forces with African countries, including Nigeria, to say we're putting measures in place to incentivize the urge to want to travel for trafficking. Well, some cases for almost any other reason. All right, we're doing that from your end, from Africa. We're also on our end ensuring that we do not give them that playing ground, so to say, that's enabling environment, so that this business doesn't thrive. But it appears that still a trickle in an ocean in terms of the efforts versus the outcomes. Right? That's again sad. If you look at statistics from the International Organization for Migration, you'll be stunned, to put it mildly, as to how deep-rooted this scourge has become across the world. We're seeing people who have come out on social media to talk about their own experiences from the 90s, from the early 2000s, even from the mid-2000s, as to how they were trafficked by their aunties, by those they trusted, their uncles, in some cases, like we've seen this morning, their parents, all right? But at some point, they experienced some sort of epiphany, all right? And then they realized that, look, this is not the kind of life I should be living. Some of them run away from one country to another. Some of them turn themselves into the police. And they have those whose only option, at least so they think, under those circumstances, is to come to the internet. Go to the social media to put the word out there and things like that. But there is so much of economic, if you like, layer to this problem, right? If people don't feel economically carried along, let's borrow the words of politicians for a second, they are likely going to look for greener pastures. It's called survival. Survival instinct, right? The part of the brain that wants you to survive against all odds. We can sit here all day and pontificate and say, no, how can she do that? How can he do that? Yes, we can even activate the law or enforce the law, so to speak, against such people. But when it's all said and done, we must realize that the law or body of laws in the country does not, will not, cannot ever replace economic efforts, economic policies. German people must be able to live a decent life. By that I mean they must be able to eat. We're not talking about whether the meal is sumptuous or not. They must be able to have access to the basic essentials, the vital things of life. If they can't have that and they hear that someone else is having it in a different environment, the chances that they will go there are very, very high. So you must find a way to cut it back. All right? And that's why we realize that at a point when the UK wanted to discourage Nigerians from coming to study, they had to hike, the universities hiked fees for foreign students, all right? What did you find? You realize that the disparity between what Jew might coming from Nigeria to study for masters in the UK, any part of the UK, and the guy coming from anywhere around Europe was like, the Gulf was like day and night.
Yes, it was.
The idea was, let's see how we can discourage. And later, from time to time, you find that they are reviewing their policies. One time they say, well, Jumai can come with the entire family to study for a master's. All right, they can stay back afterwards. Later they said, no, if Jumai wants to come study for a master's, she's got to come all by herself. If she wants her family members to come join her, there's a different path. There's a different channel or different routes for doing that. Finally, it means that we must find a way to discourage, we must disincentivize people from coming to join, from taking this kind of very dangerous path. Because as it stands right now, people are becoming desperate by the day.
Yes, and just to land on that, desperate times call for desperate measures, and that's what is in place now. And that is why people will go all out. They don't care. Like you say, you see that meal. When they say a hungry man is a hungry man, it speaks a lot about someone who is hungry and what he or she can do. Now, this is a father, this is his blood now. He actually gave birth to that child. But because of hunger, poverty, and the essentials that he cannot afford or lay a hand on, he is willing to throw his daughter to the dungeons, let her go and prostitute, let her go for child labor, let her go and do all what not. She will get the hang of it. She will maneuver, not thinking of her age, experience, and all. It's just sad. So that is why the economic factor comes into place. We're not asking for too much. Nigerians are not asking for too much, so that we will not be forced to go into such type of criminal act. And that's why there's so much rise of criminality now. So much, it's on the rise. Why? Because people cannot afford the basics of life. Look at it. Unemployment, there's no light, transportation is high, fuel. I was telling you about how much I bought fuel this week alone. So it takes a toll on individuals. So
it really does.
We have a lot to do, and hopefully the needful will be done.
Thank you so much, Umar. Well, we'll take a break now. When we return, we will go, like we said a while ago, in the manner of speaking, to KB State, where the Commissioner of Police will be updating us as to the numbers as it has to do with crimes there and what the police is doing to win that fight every day. Please stay with us. Wake up with Global Morning, your daily guide to what's happening and making the rounds.
We delve into headlines, newspaper reviews, spot-on analysis, policies, current events, real talk, real issues that affect us all.
From the latest trends to the debate, every topic, every angle, Global Morning is where it all starts.
Global Morning,
For the latest issues,
always on point.
Watch Global Morning Monday to Friday at 7 a.m. Saturday and Sunday at 8 a.m. on Global Television.
In an age of breaking news, you need a trusted source that prioritizes accurate, factual, and unbiased reporting. This is AM News, and I am Ubong Usoro.
On Global Television, our news is rooted in verified and authoritative storytelling that keeps you educated, informed, and enlightened on all the issues that matter to you. I am Sadia Yakubu. This is Midday News.
You can trust a multi-platform news broadcast real-time and fast-check stories for all the big local and foreign headlines round the clock. I am Ramsey Enoch Agbo. This is News Express.
Our array of anchors delivers the news to our teeming viewers, breaking it down with context and perspective. This is News Cycle on Global Television. I am Anieti Patrick.
And the flagship news is your hub for the day's most engaging stories. This is News Prime, and I am Jumai Manson.
Did you miss any of our news rounds? No worries. Catch up at 10 p.m. and midnight, 7 days of the week. I am Mukhtar Kasim.
Global TV is on DSTV channel 365 and Star Times channel 276. We're active across all social media platforms at Global TV NG.
Global TV News, accurate and unbiased. I'm Uyi Agmofwebe.
In an age of breaking news, you need a trusted source that prioritizes accurate, factual, and unbiased reporting. This is AM News, and I am Ubong Usoro.
On Global Television, our news is rooted in verified and authoritative storytelling that keeps you educated, informed, and enlightened on all the issues that matter to you. I am Sadia Yakubu. This is Midday News.
You can trust our multi-platform news broadcast real-time and fast-check stories for all the big local and foreign headlines round the clock. I am Ramsey Enoch Agbo. This is News Express.
Our array of anchors delivers the news to our teeming viewers, breaking it down with context and perspective. This is News Cycle on Global Television. I am Anieti Patrick.
And the flagship news is your hub for the day's most engaging stories. This is News Prime, and I am Jumai Manson.
Did you miss any of our news rounds? No worries. Catch up at 10 p.m. and midnight, 7 days of the week. I am Mukhtar Kasim.
Global TV is on DSTV channel 365 and Star Times channel 276. We're active across all social media platforms at Global TV NG.
Global TV News, accurate and unbiased. I'm Uyi Agmofwebe.
This week we have taken our time to highlight some of the insecurity concerns, especially in the northern part of our country. But this morning in particular, I want to pay specific attention to what's happening on the ground in Kebbi State. For the benefit of our viewers who may not be aware, Kebbi State is somewhere in northwest of Nigeria, and it turns out we are joined this morning by the Commissioner of Police, the Kebbi State Command, who will help us find some context and perspective, and also, as it were, debunk some of the falsehood, misinformation, and fake news coming out of that state as it has to do with the security situation. CP Umar Hadija joins us this morning from Birni, Kebbi, the state capital. CP, we are grateful for making out time of your busy schedule to join us on the program this morning.
Thank you very much for having me. I appreciate your invitation. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Let's begin with, well, of course, that's your state. Let's start with the scale of insecurity there right now, because for those of us who are not residents in Kebbi, there's so much of story coming out from there regarding insecurity. 1 minute you hear about, well, bandits, the next they say is Lakurawa. Help us understand what's happening and, of course, what the implications are.
Thank you very much. Kebbi State, we are having peculiar security challenges because of our strategic location and the vast area that we occupied. Kebbi State is having both water and land borders. We have water borders with Benin Republic from the southern part of the state. We are also having land border with Benin and Niger Republic from the southern part of the state. Kebbi State, like some of the state in the northwestern geographical region, is also having border with Sokoto, Zamfara, and the Niger State. And these are states that are known for having issues of banditry and other serious crime. So the issue of the Lakurawa, we are having the Lakurawa because they infiltrate into Kebbi State, mostly from the neighboring Niger Republic into Nigeria, where you have a very vast forest border from Kangiwa, that is Arewa local government area, and through Augie local government and the local government areas. It is, and also up to Kamba and the Baguro local government areas where we have direct borders with the Niger Republic. So mostly the Lakra terrorists infiltrate into our areas, into Kebbi State, and when they commit their offenses, they quickly run back, to hide in the forested areas that is not dominated by state actors. So that is the main challenges that we are having. And when I took over as Commissioner of Police in Kebbi State about 3 months ago, we tried to come with a lot of strategic policies in order to tackle the problem. Number one, we have actually imposed the issue of intelligence-led policing, in which we are getting a lot of intelligence from reliable informants, from our own operatives, and also collaboration with the Department of State Services, that are DSS. So in doing so, we are getting a lot of credible intelligence, which is assisting us to map out our operational strategies. We are also focusing a lot of attention on community engagement, because security is everybody's business. It's not only for the police. So we have reached out to a lot of communities, traditional rulers, important stakeholders, the governments, other security agencies, in order to collaborate with the police, in order for us to be able to confront the security challenges. Presently, we are having a joint operation which comprises of the military, police, national security and civil defense corps, and the vigilante group. This operation is a clearing operation that is presently concentrated in Baguda local government area, around the forested area of Soda Forest and those axes. And our intention is that we are going to send the clearing operation to other places like Arausia Forest, which is in between Neyama local government and the Kepe local government in Sokoto State. We also intend to carry out a similar clearance operation in Arewa local government at Bunki Forest. Bunki Forest is a very vast area. It's a cattle route, but presently the terrorists are actually having their camps there. It has a border with the Niger Republic and is located between Dundee and Arewa local government area of the state. So and apart from that, we are also having a very good collaboration with the neighboring state of Sokoto, Zamfara, and the Niger State. In Niger State, we have a vast border which extended from Kainji Dam in Niger State up to Borgu and the Agora local government of Niger State. And it has border with the Shenga local government, Wara local government, and Baguda local government area of the state. So all these are trouble areas in which we can map our strategies. We have made a lot of deployment, both using our marine police, using the boat to, patrol the waterways, and also the land areas we are having deployment. So presently, I can say in Kebbi State, the situation is actually relatively calm. Of course, we cannot eradicate crime completely, but the level of the crime in the state when I took over and now is drastically low. And
we just had a connection snap there with CP Hadija, who is, of course, in charge of Kebbi State's police command. I love the brilliance with which he was just delivering all of these challenges. And quite frankly, it paints a very smart picture of what's happening on the ground in terms of the terrorists themselves, the impacts their activities are having on the state and its people. And then, of course, he also talked about how that he took over about 3 months ago.
3 months ago, yes.
You can imagine how bad the situation was when he came on board and how much of work that is in front of him.
Very true. And I like the fact that I wanted to ask about strategies because it was very important because, you know, taking over from office 3 months ago, from what you're seeing now and because of the high space of insecurity in Kebbi State, what have you been able to bring on board in order to curb this menace? And I like the fact he says these are strategies that have been put in place. And over 3 months ago, we've done this and this and this with partners. We have partnered with different security agencies in various, and he explained explicitly about the borders in which they share when it comes to Kebbi and all of that. I like the fact that the deliverance for me and hopefully the menace of insecurity in Kebbi State will be curbed as soon as possible. Not for the hitch there. I wanted to ask him a lot of questions, basically about when he comes back on board. Hopefully, we will talk about a lot when it comes to the presence, the heavy presence of the police and patrol. How has it been able to?
Like I say, Juma, you're going to have your day in court now. I hear our guest has rejoined us.
All right. Of course, CP Hadija, you are welcome back. So I wanted to ask a question that how has increased police presence and of course patrol, how has it been able to curb or increase security in some various communities in Kebbi State? Sipendija, are you there? So knowing that with all of these strategies that has been put in place, I want to know with the patrol, the heavy presence of the police and of course patrol going up about in various communities, let's see how well security has been able to be doused down in parts of the community and of course in places in Kebbi State to see. That was one of the questions I wanted to ask him because you know the fear of the police force being active.
I'm sure he's hearing you now because we've been able to reestablish a connection with him.
Is he back? All right, sir.
Please come back with your question again.
Okay. I said with the presence.
Question, please.
I said with the presence of the police force and the heavy presence of police and of course the patrol of police force, how has security been able to decrease in some parts of Kebbi State?
If I get you, you're asking about the present security situation. Now, actually, if you look, as I said earlier, with these measures that we have taken place, the number of the policemen have been increased exponentially in most of our areas that are flash areas in which we are having a lot of trouble. And as I said earlier, it's not only police, it's a joint operation presently that we are undertaking, including the police, military, and the support that we are getting from the state government.
Again, but you know, there was something he mentioned earlier which I wanted to quickly revert to before we got back to him. He talked about marine police. I've not heard that in many years. So you see, again, it goes back to the sophistication of these criminals. I mean, the sophistry of their operations, right? Because who would have thought the day would come when the police will have to fight all of these guys, even in the water, so to say, and things like that. But that's the reality we have to deal with now. And the police will understand, especially in places like Kebbi, which has its own fair share of body of waters.
Yes, they do.
All right, is showing capacity, and it's also trying to say that, look, we can fight you anywhere. I mean, just bring the fight on, since you want to prove that you are relentless. All right. But again, we are being rejoined now by CP Hadija. Well, we would apologize for the glitches and interruptions we're experiencing with this conversation this morning. But would you be kind enough, CP, to just continue that commentary from where you left off?
Yes, as I was saying, the issue of the security in Kebbi State has actually improved with the measures that we have put in place. And mostly the measures, as I said, is that we are collaborating with other security agencies, not only police, that has been deployed. Recently, we got additional reinforcement from Force Headquarters Abuja. The Inspector of Police has sent a troop, a platoon from Special Intervention Squad, which is also actually increase our manpower. That is why there is a lot of visibility policing, and we are getting a lot of intel, as I said, from the important stakeholders like traditional rulers and the good citizen, law-abiding citizen of the state. So if you look at the crime rate, of course, before I came, if you remember, there is a serious issue of this MAGA school kidnapping of the school girls in MAGA. But since we come, we actually improve the security situation, and we are not having such kind of threat again. So we will continue using intelligence-led policing, also use of community policing, which is an important concept that has been actually championed by the Inspector General of Police by engaging stakeholders, having town hall meeting, having engagement directly with all the relevant stakeholders in order to bring down the level of the crime to the lowest level. So presently, you can ask, you can make inquiry that KBC is relatively actually calm, but you cannot relax. You have to sustain, the level of the peace that we are enjoying. And in order to do so, we have to continue consistently with our own patrol, with the intelligence that we are getting and the info. And recently, we realize that one of the main problems that we are having, especially concerning our operation, is the issue of the informant. Anytime we are going on operation within a short time, you see the informant who are infiltrated into the public. They used to actually, give information to all these criminals who use the information at time to launch either ambush or attack on the police. And presently, we are able to arrest a lot of informants. They are now in CID undergoing investigation. So issue of the informant is one of the serious challenges that we are having. And another challenge that we are having is the geographical terrain of most of these areas. Some of the areas, they are not motorable. You cannot go easily without maybe having motorcycles and water. So because of that one, during our state security meeting, we have suggested to the executive governor to make contact so that we can have a clearance operation. Clearance operation similar to that one that was conducted in Kogi and Kwara State, whereby we are going to have air component and joint ground troops that will confront the hideout of these criminals, which I already informed you that we are having a lot of camps along this our border with the Niger State, in Soda Forest.
One of the concerns I also had, and I wanted to ask him a question or two in that regard, that apparently he has already attended to them. But just before we're able to reconnect with him, and hopefully time allows us to do that, I was going to also put in front of him issues around the, if you like, complexity associated with the operations of the Lakurawa group in particular. We understand that they are embedded in Central Sahel, Chad, Mali, Burkina Faso, and their own leader, Amir Tajuddin, as we're hearing from the report by the Institute for Security Studies, moves across these countries, including into Nigeria. And then in Nigeria, reports are saying, quite a number of sources are reporting that their operations in terms of network, in terms of logistics hub, is basically embedded between Sokoto and Kebbi states. I was going to ask him, these are neighboring states. Of course, Kebbi had been part of Sokoto over time. Is there a handshake of some kind between him being the CP of KB and the CP, of course, of Sokoto, so that it's easier to deal with all of this? We understand that the CP has rejoined us. Again, we appreciate your time with us on the program. You were just going to follow up with a question, I guess.
Yes, I wanted to follow up with a question. He mentioned, intelligence gathering. You already spoke on that, and I wanted to ask, what is the collaboration? How is the collaboration between the Nigerian police and, of course, local communities, how they come together in trying as much as as possible to nip this particular menace of insecurity in the bud in Kebbi State? That was what I was going to ask. It was like a follow-up question with individuals. He mentioned traditional leaders at a point, working with them, but I wanted to know the youths, how is it coming together and trying to combat insecurity in Kebbi State? Hopefully he will answer that question.
Let's use this medium to thank CP Umar Adija. He's the Commissioner of Police, Kebbi State. And of course, we are grateful to the PRO, Usman Bashir, who has done an amazing work helping to facilitate these from that end. And we wish you and your command success in the fight against insecurity. And we're grateful to you on behalf of the good people of Kebbi State for helping them to go to bed with two eyes closed. But you see, again, this is a reminder that the fight against insecurity is everybody's business.
Yes,
we may not all have the training, the expertise, the experience that the police have, that the military has, but we must play our role. He talked about, for example, traditional rulers. He talked about youth.
Informants, intelligence
exactly.
gathering.
How everybody has to do their parts.
It's very important.
Just like the CDS, the Chief of Defense Staff mentioned about 2 weeks ago in Borno State, that look, we must understand that these people live amongst us.
Within you,
They're not robots, they are human beings, all right? And you can't see something and not say something. I know, yes, the concern has always been that you can't trust the police or the army when you share information with them, but we're also seeing some steady improvements in that regard, and as such, we also now realize that we can't take away the fact that insecurity, just like politics, is a human factor issue.
Yes, it is. It's a very serious issue, and I said it takes you and I to make that difference, and we must, in our own little way, make a difference. It's very important that we understand, like you mentioned before, security is not just for the security chiefs or the security agencies. No, not at all. It's you and I. It concerns you and I, and that little effort in which you make. Like you said, the CP of Kebbi State, he said something, informants, intelligence gathering. That's the only way they can work in order to secure Kebbi State. They need the people around. They didn't go for training like they did. They didn't go for that 6 months training or carrying arms. You don't need to carry arms. Just when you see something, like you said, say something. It goes a long way in trying to pursue this criminal element in order to curb and nip this vacuum of insecurity that has come to stay. And once you play your part as a Nigerian, as an individual who wants peace and prosperity, it will drive that force of trying to nip this in the bud, of course, insecurity, and so that there can be security in Kebbi State. Hopefully, with CP Hadija, he said he just resumed 3 months ago, and with this and the strategies he has put in place, we'll know that, of course, it's something that is big, and of course, it's a way of driving that force of insecurity, driving it away for good, and hopefully the needful will be done so that peace and prosperity can return back to Kebbi State and of course to the people of Kebbi State.
You know, we had a young man in this studio one time, that was sometime in 2024, I mean gradually getting to 2 years now, who a law student, by the way, at the Bayero University in Kano. He was here and he talked about how the insecurity had become so bad in Zamfara and a few other places within the northwest at that point in time that people would practically have to pay, because he's from there, would practically have to pay to be able to access their farmlands. And then for the first time I heard from him that there are people who live outside of the northeast or the northwest, some of them in Abuja, some of them not even in the country, not even anywhere around Nigeria, but they have to, on a monthly basis, send money back home. So their parents, in most cases aged parents, can pay these bandits, these criminals, to regain access to their farmlands. And you know, for most of these guys, they live in an agrarian communities where your livelihood is directly tied to farming. All right, so how else would they live? And that now started confirming the news, the story that, look, there are local governments where even bandits are purely, 100% in charge.
Yes.
And as such, you can imagine living in a place where you wake up every morning knowing that your local government chairman is a terrorist. And they tell the people, look, you're safe with us. In fact, you're better off with us than your conventional system of government or governance. So all you have to do is follow our orders,
pay the ransom,
pay your levies, and so on and so forth. It's quite disturbing. But with all of these things we're hearing, we do hope that this becomes a thing of the past, distant time.
Yes, hopefully.
Right. What more can we say? Security continues to be the responsibility of everyone. But the part that we also need to do with is kidnapping, where of course, every now and then you keep hearing of issues around ransom demands and so on and so forth. As of today, that in itself is quite it's quite a concerning development. That's the reason I told this gentleman on the program yesterday, Dr. Idawene, that look, when you say people travel for your events from across the country by road and they came in one piece, they left safely, that's maybe true in itself, but not everybody can boast of that luxury of having to travel by road. For example, my family couldn't travel last Christmas because of insecurity, because it's either they fly or they don't move at all. Because at the end of the day, even when you complain about the disparity between traveling by road, the cost of traveling by road and airfare, you still realize that the ultimate thing you're looking for is not just how soon you arrive, is about how safely you would arrive. So by the time you look at all your options and you ask yourself, which one guarantees safety the most of all the travel options you have in front of you, you have to settle for staying alive.
Exactly, and just remain in one piece. And it's just unfortunate that back in the day, the roads it was adventurous, where you could just travel from one point to another point without any hassle, no issues, the fear of kidnapping wasn't there, the fear of being adopted, the fear of not, being caught by these terrorists, the fear of Boko Haram wasn't there. But unfortunately, this is what it is now. A lot of people are living in fear. Not just I know some that have not traveled from Abuja to Lagos to see their parents for over 4 years because they're scared. They cannot afford the airfare. We know what flights are saying now, and the only option is to go by road, and they are scared that God forbid, if anything happens, who's going to pay that ransom? But it's just unfortunate. But hopefully we nip this particular issue in the bud. And like I said, insecurity is at the top notch. Once that issue of insecurity is done and dusted with, we're good to go with other things that will just fall seamlessly.
Thank you, Juma. Well, that's our program for you today. Again, we appreciate the CP Umar Adija, who is the Commissioner of Police, Kebbi State Command, and of course the PRO there, Bashir Usman, who has taken out time to also help us make this interview happen this morning. We're grateful to our viewers who always invest time watching Global Morning. I'm Uyi Agumofwegbe, wishing you the best of the weekend ahead.
And I am Jumaine Manson. Thank you all so much for being a part of the program. From Uyi and I, we say bye-bye.